Hi, it's Beth Packer, as you've probably heard, and I'm in Australia at the moment, and I am a member of the Christian Science Board of Lectureship, as well as listed in the World Journal of Christian Science Healing Practitioners. And as such, I get to travel the world talking to the public in such diverse places as the hallowed and glamorous halls of London, as well as the provincial prisons in Africa and Asia. And very soon, I'll be coming to your beautiful part of the world to give a series of talks, because I've been invited by the Christian Science churches in Portland to speak on spiritual healing to the community, which to me is a really loving, wonderful, blessing thing for them to do, because spiritual healing is a very curious and fascinating subject, but it also has the potential, when understood more deeply, to restore to our lives that peace and that well-being, that health and happiness that we all long for, but so often don't experience. And spiritual healing can mean lots of things to lots of different people. So I think for me, simply putting it, it is the solving of the human need through mental means alone that doesn't rely on physical or material methods. But the healing that we're going to be talking about during these talks is so much more than just positive thinking, which is based solely in the human mind. We're going to be talking about a healing that comes through a divine grace, through an understanding of the divine or the spiritual, and the confidence and the well-being that comes with that understanding. And the title of my lecture, the main lecture that I'll be giving, is called The How, the Why, and the Wonder of Spiritual Healing. And in this talk, you'll hear how practical, effective prayer can help us all experience that divine power and protection in our lives. You'll hear how a knowledge of our inseparable relationship to God, to a loving God, a God that is love, brings practical healing solutions. Now, this talk also includes multiple healing experiences, including protection from danger, healing of illness, the effects of accident, and the ideas that are used come from the Christian Science textbooks, which is, of course, the Bible. Christian Science is very Bible-based, but also Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. Now, that's written by the founder of Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy. And I know in today's increasingly secular way of thinking that the Bible and its message is being thought of as not holding much relevance to today's society. But to me, always, this book, the Bible, is just filled with so many records of spiritual healing, of healings that were just pure examples of people living their lives with dominion and not being victims to their circumstances. Healing of the human need through spiritual means alone is recorded to have taken place successfully and repeatedly right across the centuries that this book covers. These people were relying on this different, this spiritual, this non-material sense of substance and security. They relied on it for centuries to transform their experience from poverty to abundance, from danger to safety, from ill health to full health. But I got to tell you, I don't think there really is anything that we're facing now that they didn't face in that book and overcome. I mean, the Bible's full of stories, isn't it, of war and despotic rulers, of floods and famines, and of people living in great poverty or in great sickness. But all were overcome by turning to a spiritual source rather than physicality or materiality by turning to God, a God who is love itself. So that's why, to me, this book is still so immensely relevant to us today, because it shows us that there is no problem that we may be facing, no matter how big it may seem to be, for which there is not a solution if we look in the right direction. This is a book of hope, and hope is always relevant, and hope is always needed. And that's one of the great blessings of Christian Science, this religion of love and healing, this science of Christianity. Christian Science helps us see a different kind of substance, a different aspect to reality. It helps us think differently about where the good in our lives really does come from and our access to that good. But just so importantly, the ideas and the life example of the discoverer of Christian Science, that was Mary Baker Eddy. She also founded the church. Our church is founded by a woman. Her ideas and her life example show us and prove to us that it is just as possible to experience this kind of transformation, this kind of biblical healing experience in our own lives today as they did then. And that, when you think about it, is an amazing thought. And it's these ideas and this deeper look into realism that Mary Baker Eddy was always urging us all to take, that it's these ideas that we will be talking about in our time together. And my first lecture is called The How, the Why, and the Wonder of Spiritual Healing. Now, this talk will take place on Thursday, October the 3rd at 7:15 p.m. That'll be in the Portland State University Native American Student Community Centre. That sounds like a good place. That's on the corner of Southwest Broadway in Jackson. And look, everybody is welcome to come. Of all different religions, of different faiths, of no faith. Just come along. It's the ideas that you'll hear, I must admit, are not a theory. I had grown up in Christian Science, and as a young child, I saw healing really as a normal part of my life. My mother used to just to heal the cats and the dogs and the kids, whoever needed a helping hand. So we actually never thought of Christian healing as an unusual phenomenon. It was just a sign that God loved us. And those early lessons really shored me up for when I became an adult, and I was married and had 2 kids and had a business career. And those early life lessons really prepared me for the lessons of when I was an adult, which oftentimes are harder lessons. But isn't it the hard times more than the comfortable times that do force us to really progress in our lives and think more deeply about where the good in our lives really does come from? To be able to discern in this world of materialism and physicality what is truly substantial, to base our lives on a firmer foundation. And our life lessons help us do that. We all have problems right throughout our lives, but to know that there is a solution to every problem if we look in the right direction and have the ability to prove that is not only a wonderful blessing to our own lives, but it is a great blessing. It is a spiritual legacy to our children who grow up in this atmosphere. It certainly was for my children. They, throughout their lives, saw so many wonderful healings of problems overcome by turning to an understanding of God that did heal and save. And they had now, in their adult life, are being able to use that great legacy of reasoning and of confidence and of trust. And I did, when they were little, I must admit I saw such a beautiful example of that confidence and that trust. It was when they were young, my two girls, and one day I was in the kitchen and I slipped. And as I fell, I grabbed a door in order to sort of stop my fall, but at the same time fell heavily against that door, trapping my finger, which instantly burst open to the bone. Now, because it was in such a tender part of my finger, I just simply couldn't think straight. The pain was so great. And my husband immediately responded by getting washers and band-aids to try and stop the bleeding, and sat me on the lounge. And my two little girls, one just sat either side of the other. And the 7-year-old said to the 5-year-old, "Pray for Mummy." And I can still remember today the sight of them, and these two beautiful little girls just sitting there quietly with their eyes closed and their hands clasped in their lap. And the sense of love that came over me like a warm glove until I just simply felt wrapped in love. And I immediately fell in this deep and sound sleep. And I woke up an hour later to find that wound completely closed and totally painless. That's the power of spiritual healing. And I would love it if you could come along to these talks, to meet with me. I'd love to meet you and to hear these ideas that have so blessed my life, in the great hope that they will also bless your life. And as I said, my first lecture is on Thursday, October the 3rd at 7:15. Now, it's at the Portland State University. It's in the Native American Student Center, which sounds a great place to be. Now, that's on the corner of Southwest Broadway and Jackson. So that's Thursday, October the 3rd at 7:15 at the Native American Student Center. I'll also be repeating that lecture the next day. And that one is at Friday the 4th at 12 p.m, so at lunchtime, at 512 Southwest Yamhill Street. And the next day, on Saturday, another lecture at October the 5th. That one is at 10 a.m, and that's at 4834 Southwest Scholes Ferry Road. Now, that one's my other lecture. That's called Demystifying Spiritual Healing. So if you can come along, and if you can come to meet me, I'd love it. And just let us share in ideas that can bless all mankind. It would be lovely if I could meet you. Thank you.